What if I told you you could tune your lead vocal, add harmonies, and build full vocal layers, all from one vocal track using just one device inside Ableton Live? Let me show you how I do it with AutoShift. Hey, if we haven't met, my name's Terrence. I'm a top 40 music producer and songwriter, and I'm an Ableton certified trainer who loves helping others make professional radio quality music. Today, I'm breaking down exactly how I use AutoShift inside Ableton Live using my song called Gemini Season with this super talented Gracie Ella. We'll start by listening to the second verse, completely raw, and then I'll walk you through how I use just one vocal track and one device to fully produce the vocals, the tuning, the stacking, and the harmonizing along the way. Now, if you want to learn how to produce the kind of music you hear on Top 40 Radio, check out my mentorship program, links in the description. All right, let's get to the video.
But I still got a fighter in me. Got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things I do and words I've said. You don't understand that you're making my bed, getting really hard to grow in desert sand.
You know, while this raw vocal performance is fantastic, like she is probably one of the best singers I know, almost near pitch perfect. I just want to show you that, like, even in these scenarios, AutoShift can help make the sound even more polished. I'm just going to drag this in here, and this is AutoShift in its default state. You know, hit play, see what happens here.
But I still got a fighter in me. Got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things I do and words I've said.
I don't know if you heard that. It's super subtle because obviously of how great she's already singing, but it's already doing some work to fix the pitch. Where that's happening is, you know, in this quantizer section, in the middle, we have that note that you see here.
Got all these ideas in your...
And this is the target note. It's the note that it's trying to fix the vocal to. And it's also indicated by all the dots here on the keyboard.
Got all these ideas in your head, holding on...
You're going to see where the work is happening is in the meter over here. And that's how it's shifting the vocal to match the target note.
Got all these ideas in your head, holding...
So you could see here it's plus 100 cents, minus 100 cents. And 100 cents is the amount of tuning to take it to the next semitone. If you're seeing the meter move up, it means the vocal is a little flat and it needs to sharpen it a little bit. And if it's going down, then the vocal is like a little too sharp and it needs to flatten a little bit to get to the target note. How we kind of adjust the way this behaves is through the strength and the smooth. The higher the strength, the more it'll do to correct the note. So right now,
got all these ideas in your head.
You can see that's the correction that's happening. And if I lower it, then it's not really gonna...
Got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things I...
Essentially, you know, I generally just leave it on 100, and this is affecting how much work it'll do to correct the note. In terms of the smooth over here, this is kind of like how fast it goes to correct the note. And generally, like with smooth on, it makes it feel more natural as opposed to off. So with it on,
got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things...
versus...
Got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things I do and words I've said.
So you can see the meter goes a little crazier and it's just more instantaneous. Now, this is cool, but what would be more useful is if we actually put this in the key of the song, then it would make more sense. Because right now it's tuning to, you know, the next perceived note or available note, and all the notes are showing. So if we actually adjust the key to the key of the song, which is G minor, then it should sound better. We're gonna go over here, change the root to G, and then the scale to minor, and then let's have a listen to this. Let's put this back to 50.
Got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things I do and words I've said.
That just feels a little bit more precise. And what's really cool is you can also toggle the scale awareness to do this. And I think that's a really cool feature. So I guess taking this off for a second, we can adjust this to make it fit better with the track since we're in the right key now. Generally, what I'm looking for to get a more natural sounding tone is to keep the smooth on and to maybe put it around like 20 to 40 milliseconds. I feel like usually 20-ish is 30 for more natural, probably 30. So I'm gonna put it there. Let's just do that.
Got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things I do and words I've said.
And just to turn it off, just so you guys can hear, it is very subtle, but this is truly the kind of polish that would help take it to the next level.
Got all these ideas in your head, holding holding on to things I do and words I've said. You don't understand that you're making my bed.
So verses.
Me. Got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things I do and words I've said. You don't understand that you're making my bed.
Like you especially hear it on the ideas and in your head, it's just like really nicely like in the pocket tuning wise. Now, in certain instances, if I'm working on other tracks, like maybe if I'm working with a rapper or I just want something that's a little less natural, then turning off the smooth would give me a different.
Got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things I do and words.
Right, that gives you a completely different vibe. One little quick thing about the keyboard. Obviously, the keyboard right now is reflecting the scale we're currently in, and it's pulling the target notes from that. And what's really cool is you can manipulate this keyboard manually. Sometimes, you know, this might be useful if there's this like really jazzy note you're trying to hit, or you're like going into like a harmonic minor and you want to just quickly toggle that note. You can just turn it on and off. So I find that's really useful when the vocalist decides to do something a little bit out of the normal scale. Another little creative use is, let's say I just want to constrain this melody into something else. I can like remove all these notes here and just say, hey, I want this melody to just be in like C, D, and D sharp here.
Got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things I do and words I've said. You don't understand that you're making my bed, getting really hard to grow in deserts.
So, you know, that could be really cool in certain instances to just get creative and try out a different melody on the spot like that. Now, this takes us to the bottom right here, the shift in scale degrees. This is really cool and one of my favorite features of this device. You know, normally in these kinds of devices or plugins, it's like you're shifting the whole thing by like a semitone or down semitones or whatever it is. But here it's shifting it in the semitone that actually fits in the scale that you're working in. And it makes it very musically useful, especially when it comes to creating harmonies. I'll just quickly show you.
Got all these ideas.
Oh, let me get back to G minor here. Let me put it back to smooth, 30 milliseconds.
Got all these ideas in your head.
So if I turn it up.
On the things I do and words I've said. You don't
Now, by itself, like I said, for me personally, not very useful. But when used as a harmony, this can be really, really cool. I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate. Let me take this back to 0 on the main track. I'm going to duplicate this track. Let me just get rid of all the vocals here. I'm just trying to keep the settings. So with harmonies, generally as a third and as a fifth, it's really cool. It makes for a really nice voicing on the lead. I just want to take this whole thing and see what it would sound like if I had shift this up a third. We're going to take this and go up a third, because normally harmonic third should feel good. Let's have a listen to this.
Got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things I do and words I've said. You don't understand that you're making my bed.
So this is really useful in just creating a harmony on the spot right here. Now I'm just going to tweak this a little bit to make it fit within the context of what I'm doing here.
Got all these ideas in your head.
Let's first turn this down a little bit.
Don't understand that you're making my bed, getting really hard to grow in desert.
What I might do is get rid of this guy, because I don't need all of this. I kind of just want
Making my bed,
on making my bed and desert sand over here.
grow in desert sand. I don't
Okay, let's turn this harmony back up a little bit.
got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things I do and words I've said. You don't understand that you're making my bed, getting really hard to grow in desert sand.
Maybe on sand, I'm not too crazy.
Desert sand.
I actually want desert sand. Let me take this and just adjust the pitch of this really quick.
Sand.
Yeah, that's the note I'm looking for. So I want it to go up to, just to kind of force it to hit that note. So really, what would normally take me a lot longer, or I have to record this part, I can just quickly do it with this scale degree shift. You know, while we're on this note here, I'm going to duplicate this. Why don't we do a fifth as well? So I'm going to go a fifth on this third one,
Got all these
on this third
ideas
track.
in your- got all these ideas in your head.
Okay, let's hear this all together.
Got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things I do and words I've I've said. You don't understand that you're making my bed. Getting really hard to grow in desert sand.
You know, while we're on this, I'm just gonna quickly do a little stereo effect on both of these to really get them nice in the mix.
Got all these ideas in your head.
I'm gonna put the same one over here on the fifth, and then I'm gonna spread it actually more so then it feels there's a little depth to these backgrounds.
Got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things I do and words I've said. You don't understand that you're making my bed. Getting really hard to grow in desert sand.
Super useful to create harmonies, and this kind of takes us into some other creative uses of AutoShift, which is in this next section here. And this is where we could really play with the pitch and the texture of the voice. I'll just quickly show you like what these knobs do. You know, going down semitones
Got all these ideas in your head.
will obviously like shift it down the semitones, but the useful pitches for me here in the context of this is down an octave and up an octave. So I find that
Got all these ideas in your
the down octave and the up octave
Got all these ideas in your head.
can make for useful layers or just like certain moments in songs. And then there's the fine tuning. I find this useful for layering and like creating doubles, and I'll show you that in a sec. And then there's the formant where you can, and the formant follow where you could use these to really affect the texture of the vocal here. You can make it more like chipmunky if you're up the...
Got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things I do and words I've said.
with the formant, and if I go the other way,
Got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things I do and words I've said.
right? You could really warp the vocal in that way. In terms of use cases, what this would be really useful for, so let me rename this so I don't get confused. This is the third and this is the fifth, right? I can just quickly like pitch these down and create like additional layers. So I'm going to take the third harmony and the fifth harmony that I created. Let's duplicate that. And let's put this harm third down an octave. So what does that sound like?
Got all these ideas in your head.
Cool. Let me
Got
play
all
with
these ideas in your head, holding on.
the formant a little bit so it just feels a little deeper.
Got all these ideas in your
And then this is the octave low of the fifth I want to create.
Got all these ideas in your head.
I usually like the formant down a little bit just so it's not as tinny and bright. Let's hear all of this together. I mean, I don't know how this is going to sound, but let's see.
Got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things I do and words I've said.
So you can see you could just create instantaneously a very full harmony stack. I'm going to turn these down a little bit.
Got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things I do and words I've said. Got all these ideas in your
So generally with the lower type of harmonies and whatnot, I like to really tuck them. You don't want them to be so obvious, and especially when it's like warping her vocal, you want it to be felt more so than heard. And you know when it's felt versus heard is, you know, when you take it out,
Got all these ideas in your head.
it's not as full, but when I put them in,
Got all these ideas in your head.
it's still heard to me, so I would turn down a little bit. It should just feel like it lifts it a tiny bit.
Got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things I do.
So let me take it out again.
Got all these ideas.
Exactly. Now it feels more like it's felt because it's just like, oh, there's something that's giving it that additional warmth, but I can't pinpoint exactly what it is. So that's usually how I like to mix these harmonies. Now, the last thing that I would do with the pitch shift fine here is create like a octave low stack. For that, I'm going to go back to the lead here.
You when things get hard.
So maybe on Things Get Hard, I want like a Things Get Hard and just like have a nice little left right of that. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this track again. Let's get rid of these vocals and zoom back in. I'm going to go and grab
When things get hard.
Things Get Hard. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, and I'm going to pitch this down an octave, right?
Things get hard.
Now that obviously sounds really grainy. Let me just
Things
adjust.
get hard. Things get hard.
No, that sounds a little too deep. So
Things get hard.
now that tucked will probably work. Maybe I pan this a little to the left, and then I'm going to duplicate this, and we'll maybe do the opposite of that. We'll go 20 right. So maybe just play with this a little bit. Maybe play with the fine just so it's like slightly detuned from the other one.
Things get hard.
And maybe even like change the characteristic a little bit. Maybe change the formant a little bit.
Things get hard. Things get hard.
Just so it adds a little depth to it, right?
When things get hard.
Okay, and then I'm going to turn these way down.
When things get hard. And when things get hard.
Now, I could do the same thing with an octave up too, right? I think octave down and octave up in vocal production is like often very underrated because it, once again, just adds like a layer of like felt, not heard. In this one, I'm going to take it up 12. Let's make sure it's not too chipmunky.
You when things get hard.
Okay, I can't really hear that. Let me just go back to this.
Things get hard.
So we could turn this up a little bit.
Things get hard.
That could work. Let's just keep the same settings here. Let's see.
Things get hard. When things get hard, I know I got what it takes to be a star. When things get hard, I know when things get hard.
So I'm just going to turn it up a little bit more until I feel it, not hear it.
When things get hard, I know I got what it takes to be.
I'm okay with that. Maybe turn down the lows a little bit more. Cool. What's really great about this is if I want additional parts to have these effects, it's just a simple copy and paste, right? So if I want
Be a star.
Be a Star to have this vibe as well, just paste into these tracks, and I have this stack as
To
well.
be a star. Maybe if you would step off, then you would see.
And that leads me to this, where I'm like, oh, you know what? Maybe a harmony on that would be cool. Let me just slap that onto the third.
You would see.
I mean, that could be cool. Let me try it on the fifth.
You would see.
I kind of like it on the fifth a little bit more. So yeah, just with AutoShift and, you know, a bit of manipulation on with the clips, I have this right now.
Got a fighter in me. Got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things I do and words I've said. You don't understand that you're making my bed, getting really hard to grow in desert sand. I don't need to look for you when things get hard. I know I got what it takes to be a star. Maybe if you would step off, then you would see.
These are the main use cases of AutoShift for me. In terms of some of these other sections, the vibrato here, you can kind of like force a vibrato, which can be cool, but I would say personally, I don't use this section as much because when I'm doing vocals, I like to preserve the natural vibe of the vocal. But I do see a cool use case for this, actually more so on instruments to create just some warbliness. And then this LFO section, you could do really interesting modulations to your vocal and give it a really cool effect. Now, mostly the vocals I work with, I'm not like warping them too much. You know, for certain songs where if I have like a heavy drop and it's more like electronic, this can give it a really cool stutter effect or like modulation things. And really quickly, I can show you, you can just turn this on, you know, crank up the panning. For example, that stutter effect I was talking about, change it to a rectangle modulation and, you know, crank up some of these, like the volume here and exactly it here.
Got all these ideas.
And if I crank up the rate,
Got all these ideas in your head, holding on to things I do and words I've said. You don't understand that you're making my bed, getting really hard to grow in desert sand.
right? So you can see if you like automate this and really like finesse these parameters, you can get some really cool vocal effects. And I just love that that's built in there as an option for you to explore that if you want to.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And if you want to start producing music that sounds like what you hear on Top 40 Radio, I run a mentorship program that can help. Link is in the description, so check that out if you're serious about leveling up. Otherwise, don't forget to like and subscribe for more tips and tricks like this. I'll see you in the next session.